Bonjour everyone, and welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. I'm your humble French tarot reader Marine, and today I wanted to do a video where I talk about tarot and oracle decks that I don't talk about enough. These are tarot and oracle decks, and I think it's all mass market. Yeah, turns out it's all mass market. Go me, I didn't even plan that. All mass market tarot and oracle decks that are great. They're awesome, and I don't really talk about them enough. I sometimes do a video called underrated decks that are hidden gem, mass market hidden gems that are not very well known and shown and stuff. The decks I'm gonna share with you today are definitely not underrated or hidden gems. They are very well known. I think they're very shared in the community on TarotTube, but I personally have realized that I haven't really shared them that much on my channel, or at least I haven't talked about them in a while. I need to remedy that because they're awesome and they need to be shared. So that was the theme of today's video. It's like great decks I don't talk about enough. It's gonna be a chatty video. I can already tell I'm feeling chatty Cathy today, so prepare. Buckle up your seatbelt, honey, because we're gonna be here a while. Anyway, if this is your first time here, oh my god, good luck. I'm sorry in advance. You will find all the names of the decks in the description box. I will try and put links if I'm being a good YouTuber. You'll also find all of my social media links, other videos of mine you may want to check out. And so without further ado, let's get into great decks I don't talk about enough. I hadn't planned on all of these decks being mass market, but I think that makes even more sense. So I guess I'm gonna call this video Great Mass Market Tarot and Oracle Decks I don't talk about enough. And so I've got about 10 I think, so we'll just start from the top. The first deck I wanted to talk about today is a deck I used to talk about a lot on my channel back in 2020, and it's a deck I continuously use behind the scene, but I've realized, as is the case with all of the decks I'm gonna share with you today, that I've not really shown it on any videos or anything like that, and so that's what today's video is all about. We're remedying that, we're bringing it back to the light. That is the Next World Tarot by Christy C. Rode. I've got the mini edition. I believe you can get this as a much larger edition as well. I really wish there was an in-between. Like, as far as I know, there's a pocket one and a huge one. And it's like, what about middle ground, right? Temperance. That would be nice. Adore this deck, and it's actually a deck that has been very important in my tarot journey, in my tarot practice, because it was the first deck that I actually saw me, in the sense of a part of me, like one part of my identity. We are many, many different things, and part of me and my identity is someone who navigates the waters of chronic pain, chronic illness. That's not all of me, thank God. That doesn't define all of who I am, but it is a big part of my life. It does rule my life. It means I have to navigate life with an invisible disability, and this Lover's card was the first tarot card I ever saw that actually depicted my struggle and my life with chronic illness. You can see someone handing someone spoons, right, which is very linked to chronic pain, chronic illness, and this person is walking with walking aid. And feel simple, right? Just one card, and yet the power of one card when you see your experience, when you see yourself. And for me, it's like my struggle with chronic pain and chronic illness and my invisible disability. Maybe for other of you out there, it's like seeing your body type, or maybe it's seeing your queerness, or maybe it's seeing your parenting life. I don't know, like, we're all defined by a multitude of things, but when you see yourself in a deck in one card, wow, that can be so powerful. And this deck gave me that. It gave me like that feeling of affirmation of like, wow, I feel seen. And this is why I'm very passionate about wanting more decks that have the diversity, that represents lots of different people. And I don't need all my decks to depict everyone, but I do need my decks to depict as much variation of the human experience as there can be, because I know the power of one card. I know the power of what seeing yourself in one card can be, because I've lived it with this deck. When I saw this deck and I pulled the Lover's card for the first time, it was like, wow, you know, so this is why it's important to continually be vocal about needing representation in decks, about wanting to see perspective from people from all over the world. And again, I don't need every single one of my deck to be representative of every single one out there, but I love having different decks that represent different experiences, different lives, different cultures, because I know someone out there is gonna want to see themselves just the same way that I felt seen when I saw my struggle and, you know, the challenge and difficulties that I live through daily. This is a very special deck emotionally for me, that I feel very connected, and I realized, wow, I have not talked about this one in ages, and yet it's still one that I use very, very often. I mean, you probably can tell the edges are pretty dirty, and it's one of those that it's been loved. The vibe of this deck is very post-apocalyptic. Let's rebuild the world in a way that is more empowered, more inclusive, and in a way that says, fuck to patriarchy, right? Dissolve the empire, exactly. So this is a very like opinionated deck. It's a very brave deck. It's a deck that has a point of view. It's not for everyone, I believe. Like, you know, it's not gonna, even the art style, I don't think everyone will resonate, this like post-apocalyptic vibe. But for me, it's everything, and it's a deck that has really brought a lot of healing for me, a lot of hope, a lot of rebellion as well. It's helped me work with my anger. It helps me work when I deal with like injustice, not just for me but for the world at large, like when I feel very confounded about what's happening in the world, and I feel like, how can we continue hope when there's so much shit going on out there? This deck gives me that hope, and it's reminding me that everyone at their small level can do something to try and make this like trash can on fire a little better. The guidebook is really unapologetic, it's fierce, it's very wands-like. It's just really great. I love the fact that we have astrological association. I love the fact that there's a keyword. A couple of the mages have been renamed in a way that makes a lot of sense to me, and like I said, like this was very important in my journey with tarot, because it was the first time I saw a deck that I felt, wow, I'm here, and I appreciate that. So really, really love this one. I am so glad it exists. I'm so grateful that it's a deck that exists, that is out there in the world. The pocket edition comes with a little guidebook like this. Again, don't sleep on this. Small but powerful. Let's look at the lovers, for example, because I've been banging on about this card. The lovers are the electricity between contrasted energies that give one another life. The lovers are the choices between methods of survival and the discovery of a pristine middle ground. The lovers are a sacred point where power merges from the spine. The lovers are the feeling of warmth and belonging, the meeting where you felt heard and the gathering where you felt alive. The lovers are two halves of a whole, intuitively joined at the hip and made for one another. They intersect at moments of calm resilience and moments of pain and dysphoria, and they offer the wisest connection, the connection that truly reciprocates, the one that truly holds you. It can be a person, a place, your own mind and body. The lovers ask you to trust this. The lovers reminds us that love does not exist as one narrative where our connections are limited to people and places outside of ourselves. Love is constant in a full heart or an aching spine. It's the decaying leaves of a tree in autumn that reminds us that struggle and change can exhibit our most colorful talents. As the universe offers pipe dreams, delusions, and wayward paths, the lovers ask you to embrace an indestructible bond that honors you for you. Boom, baby. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, let's continue. Another great mass market deck that I don't talk about enough, and that definitely still is awesome, deserves praise, and deserves more time in the spotlight, is Le Tarot des Runes, in the French version, or in English I think it's the Runic Tarot. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck. I think it's the Runic Tarot. Now, I have the French version, but you can definitely get this in English by Lo Scarabeo, and I'm pretty sure the English version comes with a guidebook from different sizes. Like, I think this comes in a pocket edition, similar to the French edition, or I think you can also get a larger edition with a big book. I've been told that in the comments before, so if I'm wrong, don't blame me. And someone in the comment told me that. The French edition only comes with the one little guidebook, And honestly, even though this is called the Runic Tarot, and technically there are runes on every single card, and technically the runes are a big part of the deck, I don't really pay attention to them. I know, controversial. I'm gonna be making enemies here, but even though this is called the Runic Tarot, I don't really give a shit about the runes because I've found, at least in the little French version of the guidebook, that the explanations behind the choice of the runes don't make much sense to me, and that is coming from someone who is very, very newbie at runes. Like, I don't really understand runes. It's something I would love to learn one day, something I currently don't have the bandwidth to learning. So even though I know a couple, like I know the main ones, I'm definitely not someone who really is well versed with runes. Of course, it's not really part of why I enjoy this deck. For me, I just take this deck as face value, which is awesome Viking slash The Witcher slash Game of Thrones vibes deck. That's the vibe for me. That's how I read this deck. It's very warrior-like. Like, this deck is giving you warrior energy, and that's kind of how I've related to this deck and how I've connected with it. I got this deck when I was watching Vikings, which obviously, you know, match made in heaven, great TV show if you've never watched it. Floki is to this day the most full-like archetype characters that I've ever seen in any show, I think. And so obviously when I was watching Vikings, this was awesome to use. But also after that, I thought maybe this would be a phase. I thought, okay, you're watching Vikings, you're enjoying using this, maybe the love is gonna die, right? But it didn't fizzle out because I realized that this deck gives me a massive kick up the butt because it has huge fire energy. And so there's a lot of like stories there relating to mythology, Norse mythology. We have gods and goddesses. I mean, obviously here we have Freya and her cat Chariot. There's like Odin and all of those, you know, all the big boys and the big girls are there. Like I said, every single card has runes, and so if you're super familiar with runes and you're very well versed in Norse mythology, you probably would get a lot more out of this deck. For me, I kind of take it as face value. Like, I recognize obviously some of the gods and goddesses, but again, Norse mythology is not my preferred world of mythological stories. It's not like I'm not a pro at all. Like, I'm much more well versed in Egyptian or Greek mythology. And yet it doesn't stop me from enjoying this deck because as face value, when I look at the artwork, I look at the world building, I look at the depiction, it gives you massive warrior-like, you can do it, stop moping around, get your ass out there and fucking do it vibes. I like to use this deck when I'm too caught up in my feelings and I need a kick up the butt. When I need to get back into action mode, because I've been in my head for too long, this is great. As any kind of project reading, career reading, anything where you know you have like motivation, determination, you need goals, anything like that, this is great. Great. I've never tried this for relationship readings. I don't know what it would be like, but for career or anything like that, projects, creativity, stuff like that, this is awesome because it gives you that fiery like, fucking do it, stop complaining, you're powerful. And it's not underrated, a lot of people like it, a lot of people know about it, but it's one I don't talk about enough. I think I've definitely not shared it on my channel for over a year, I think, and I was like, girl, I need to remedy that. I would love to know if you have the larger version with the big guidebook in English, if you enjoy it, if you think it's like better than the small one. Hasn't stopped me from bonding with the deck, even though I don't have the large guidebook, like I said, it's just I've kind of like made my own connection with it, where it's halfway point between Viking world and fantasy world. Like, it definitely gives Witcher vibe, specifically when in The Witcher you can go into like Skellige and those kind of places. If you know, you know. This is also a little bit of my Witcher deck, I think. Look at this High Priestess. I mean, come on, gorgeousness. Just so great. One side is lit, one side is not. I really love that. The backs, I don't think I shared. Backs look like this in the French version, very glossy and plain sides. So that is the Tarot des Runes or Runic Tarot. We have here another one, great deck that I definitely don't talk about enough. Tarot Illuminati, which wins ugliest backings of all time. Come on, rounds of applause everyone, rounds of applause. Definitely ugliest backing I have ever seen in my whole life. So for that reason, I needed to bring it out. No. But despite the ugly backing, which again, I have the French edition for this, the English edition might be different. I hope for your sake the English has different backing because nobody deserves this kind of hate. We don't deserve that. In the French edition, that's what we got. And you know what? That's it. That's what it is. By Kim Huggins and Eric C. Dune. This is awesome. And this is, again, I don't think I've shown it on my channel for at least 2 years. What's not to like? This is such a good reader. And it's one, again, for me, one of my go-tos for anytime someone has a career question, career, work, creative project, because this has, again, a lot of passion. It feels very like pentacles / wands like this deck. Even though it's set up in this like fantasy world and everything is a little bit extra, right? The people are extra, the outfits are extra, the colors are extra. This is extra eleganza. And yet, it's such a good reader. I can't put my finger on it, but it freaking rules. Especially, like I said, for any career reading or anything like that. Is this not the most badass death you've ever seen? This looks like the cover of some death metal album, you know, from like the 80s. It's giving like Motley Crue, it's giving like Black Sabbath, you know? The blues are almost neon blues and the greens are almost neon greens. And it's all of that very much energetic vibe that for me makes this such a good reader. This devil also. This devil is doing the most. Just so good. Again, very glossy deck, but there we go. So this is the French edition. You can find this in English, and this actually has an amazing ebook that you can get separately as part on like your Kindle and stuff, written by Kim Huggins, and this guidebook is amazing. So even if you don't care about the artwork and you just want to read an awesome book about tarot, go check out the guidebook for the Tarot Illuminati. It's very inexpensive. I mean, I got mine years ago, but at the time it was like £2 or £3. This is an awesome read. I still remember what I read in this guidebook, even though I read it in like 2019, I think. And God knows I have awful memory with brain fog and chronic pain. So it was great. For both of those reasons, the amazing guidebook that exists as a separate book, or as, like I said, I got the ebook version, and the very extra colorful but just awesome kind of world building here. This is definitely a great deck, and so I wanted to mention it. It's again not underrated, so many people love it. Come on, look at this Nine of Wands. There's something a little bit like, it's so much, right? The whole vibe, it's so much that it's, you could think it's too much. I would argue it's just enough. It's just enough, honestly. There's something about this deck that people seem to really bond and be attracted to. I don't know what it is, but every single time I've done a reading for someone with this, they've always said, wow, this is so cool, what is this deck? I think it's because it looks very dramatic, and so it gives that wow effect, right? You know what, I need to bring this back out and do a pick a card reading using this for you guys, because I miss it. I've not used it for a little bit and it needs to come back. Let's move on to an oracle deck. Potentially one of my oldest oracle decks, and yet I don't really mention it enough on my channel, so I wanted to, again, give it a time in the limelight. This is what this video is all about. Great decks I don't talk about enough. The Spirit Animal Oracle by Colette Baron Reid. I mean, come on, this is great. This is an amazing oracle deck. It's beginner friendly. If you are wanting to give a gift to someone who is like thinking about getting into cards, they want to get into oracle, or even you, maybe you want to get an oracle deck, but you're like, I don't know if I'm like which one to get. Something that would be like affordable and that would be easy to read with. Oh my god, this one is amazing. I've recommended this deck to so many people as like a beginner deck, a gift deck. This is one of those decks, again, people love. I don't know if it's because it's animals, I don't know if it's because it's like got beautiful colors and artwork, but people love this deck, and for good reason. I think this deck is very awesome. So here are the backs first off. Let me be a good YouTuber. The sides did not come like this. I edged mine because this was so dirty. It was disgusting. So I had to give it a little bit of an edge to pretend that it was looking a little bit nicer than it does. But this is a very well-loved deck. And like I said, potentially one of my oldest Oracle deck. Like I had Tarot way before I had Oracle. For me, this again holds a special place in my heart because it was one of my first Oracle decks and kind of what got me into moving away from the structure of Tarot into something a little bit more fluid. Colette Baron-Reid is definitely a very well-known author in the Tarot / Oracle world, and I'm not gonna make a lot of friends here, potentially controversial. I get cancelled saying that, but I will say that for me, this only is just for me, her older decks hit differently / better than her more recent one. So I don't actually have any of her recent ones. Didn't bond with him. I tried, didn't get on. We didn't get on. So I ended up rehoming all of them, and I didn't even purchase like the most recent one because I was like, I don't know, it just doesn't hit the same. But her early stuff, like this. Even the Good Tarot, arguably, is very fluffy and yet is awesome. The red one, Wisdom of the Oracle, they're great. They're great. So for me, this is a sweet spot of her creation, and I found my favorite, and that's where I'm gonna stay here. I love this one. It's very special to me. I mean, there's a lot of animals here that I see on the daily, like the lizard. And I mean, I don't see whales and dolphins every day, but I will see them more often than someone who lives, I don't know, in England, for example. Whereas you guys will probably see squirrel a lot more often than I do, because we don't have squirrels where I live, or we don't have badgers either. So I like the fact that there's definitely a good array of animal in this one. I mean, there's like a lot of cards, I can't remember, 60 something, 68 maybe cards, which means that there's definitely plenty of variation. I think depending where you live, you will still find animals you can connect with. I love the fact that we have the name of the animal and one key phrase. Simple, effective, awesome. The amount of time I've used this deck for clarification just to wrap up a reading, insane. I mean, at one point I was using this only for that purpose. I've even brought it back out recently for a pick a card reading for that purpose, like clarification. It just really ties in a reading beautifully. But the guidebook is also awesome, and again, when Colette does something good, she does it really good. Like that guidebook is really great. You get upwards and reverse meaning, which is why I have some cards reversed. 2-3 pages for each of the card. So the oracle message is the upward and the protection message is the downward. And look at that. Look how dirty my guidebook is. Again, this lately I've been sharing with you decks that are very well used in my collection, and look at that. This is just disgusting, and yet that shows how well loved this deck is. The guidebook is stained, the edges are stained as well, except you can't see it because I've edged them. Like, you can't physically see it, but if you touch this, you would see how well used it is because it feels very like worn in. This is definitely a deck that has been used, okay, well loved. Should be talking about this more because it's awesome. Potentially one of my favorite animal decks that I have. And I know a lot of people don't like the fact that the animals are not necessarily like pure animals, that the artist has added little crowns and little fluffy stuff, but you know what? I like that. I think it's cute. Moving on to another awesome tarot deck. Let's go back to tarot. Another great tarot deck that I don't talk about enough. Santa Muerte Tarot. You guys, when is the last time I talked about this? When is the last time I shared this deck on my channel? Probably 3 years now. And we need to remedy that because this is very cool. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck, Fabio Listrani. I think this is the only one of his I have, but I know there's definitely been a few. Like there's a Hell one, I think, Hell or Angel or something that I've seen everywhere. A lot of people are talking about that he's made. There's also an Oracle deck. Definitely has done a few decks with Lo Scarabeo, and I think a lot of you will be familiar with, if not this deck, at least his art style. Honestly, this is awesome. I haven't talked about it enough, so here we are. Oh, again, here are the backs. Arguably some of the most pretty backs. We've had disgustingly ugly backs in this video, and we also have some gorgeous backs. So I'm here for the extremes. Obviously, as the name suggests, Santa Muerte Tarot is all inspired by the Santa Muerte. And this is a deck I often see pop up on videos around Halloween time, Samhain time, all of that, because again, makes sense, Santa Muerte, yet it's one that I found myself using kind of all year long, ever since I've had this, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. I've used it kind of randomly time of the year, when I need something very like that will connect me back to my body. And I don't know if it's because every single card is like a skeleton, and so that feels very body-like, right? Like your physical bones, it's bringing you back into your body. But there is something about this deck that helps me to connect back to, yeah, my physical shell, my bag of bones that I call my body. So even though I know a lot of people use this to work with their ancestors and stuff, and actually I've done ancestral reading with this, and it works really well. Like if you want to do this, any kind of mediumship reading, ancestral reading. But for me, in my experience, I've also really connected with this deck using it for readings regarding my body. And so this is a subject that we don't talk a lot about, I think, generally speaking, in the community, using your deck to like connect to your health or your body image or your body issues or whatever kind of body you're in. And yet it can help to use the cards this way. But I would never read for someone regarding their health. Like, I'm not a doctor, you know what I mean? But between me and myself, using my cards to kind of ask questions about my health, my body, what it's feeling, what I'm going through, it helps me to kind of put my brain on the side and kind of come back to the center. So this is a deck I've really enjoyed working with that way. But also, like I was saying, really great for any kind of mediumship reading. If you want to connect to the other side of the veil. If you're familiar with your AWS, you won't have any problems, but there's like a few things that make this deck really truly stand out. One of them is the death card. This pregnant death, come on, mic drop. There's a lot of details in this deck. Like I said, it really like has some interesting ways to depict things. Nine of Swords, the way that it depicts anguish, mental anguish, the way that we can create our own nightmares, really clever. So very clever depiction. I love the use of color as well. Pack tool, we have yellow, greens, blues, and reds. And this is part of why I was saying it's so great for me to use this deck to like anything relating to grounding back to your body and stuff, because even the tens represent different bones in your body. So the 10 of Wands, it's your hips. We have a butterfly with the hip bone, and it's so true that when you're feeling burnt out, when you're feeling like it's too much, sometimes you can feel it in your lower back or in your hip, like that physically. I can't actually walk anymore. I can't actually carry this on my back anymore. My legs cannot go any longer because I'm carrying too much. And each 10 represents a different bone in your body. 10 of Swords is your skull. So that's when you're literally having too much in your head to the point where your skull is full and you can't go any longer. What is the 10 of Pentacles? Let's see. 10 of Cups, your ribs. That is protecting your heart. 10 of Cups representing fulfillment, happiness. Your ribs are literally where your heart lives. So that's the part of your body that connects to joy and happiness, vulnerability and connection to others. And finally, 10 of Pentacles. I don't know if we've passed it already. Yeah, 10 of Pentacles is your feet, I think, or your hands. What is that? Feet. Girl, I know some people are like, girl, that's not a feet, that's a hand. No, that's a feet. Right? I'm sorry if your hands look like this. You need to go to the doctor to get it checked out. Yeah, I think that's feet. 4 Pentacles, and that makes sense because Pentacles, it's about being grounded. 10 of Pentacles is about being grounded, about what you're building, and in order to build your legacy you have to be grounded, connecting to the earth. And what touches the earth? Your feet. And what's underneath your feet? Everyone that walked the path before you, your ancestors, your family that has been there before. So literally feet bones for the 10 of Pentacles. Genius. And that's it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The Santa Muerte Tarot is awesome, and it deserved a little mention today. Let's move on to an oracle deck. This is, again, one I need to talk about more because, honestly, 5 stars. Dark Mirror by Laura Sava. This is a mass market deck. Again, Los Scarabeo. I'm sharing a lot of Los Scarabeo today, I'm realizing. and I didn't plan on it, but they make some awesome decks, so there you go. Dark Mirror Oracle cards by Laura Sava. This is awesome. Now, let's start with the thing that I don't like. Not enough cards. That's the only kind of like bad comments I could make. I wish there was more cards. All of those Los Scarabeo Oracle decks tend to be very small, and that always pisses me off because I'm a greedy bitch and I want more cards, and yet I always end up biting my tongue and getting them anyway and loving them because they're always good. At first I'm like, I won't get you because there's not enough cards and I feel like I'm getting ripped off. But then I bite my own word, change my mind, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get it. And they always turn out amazing. So these Los Scarabeo Oracle decks always make me eat my words. And this one is no exception. I was resisting it for so long because not a lot of cards, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But then I was like, okay, let me give it a go. I've heard some good things about this, and my god, is this awesome. If you're looking for an affordable shadow work deck, and I don't mean shadow work in the sense of like, oh, this is dark imagery, it looks scary, so it's good for shadow work. No, really a good shadow work because it's helping you to look at what is hidden. And what is hidden could be something that is helping you or something that is hindering you. But if you are needing a bit of a deck that is almost like a torchlight to help you go and look at what's hiding in your metaphorical basement, this is awesome. And yes, I wish there was more cards, but just the way it is, it actually reads really well. So the artwork is very like digitalized and computer vibes, although I don't think it's AI yet because this was way before this came out way before AI was a thing, so I think it's just computer generated. Feels very dramatic again, and yet it transports you to this like dark fantasy world that I really enjoy. But what is awesome specifically about this deck is the key phrases and the guidebook. My god, this is so poignant, very deep, very like honest. This will really act as a torch. You're in your basement, you can't find shit, you don't know where anything is, you feel lost, you use this, you turn the light on and you're like, oh, this is it. This is why I'm triggered. This is why I'm scared. This is why I'm bored. This is why this situation is not evolving. Whatever it may be, whatever question you have, it's gonna tell you exactly what is hidden. I love using this deck for blockages, what's hidden, what you can't see, all of that type of work. It's really good for that. I have found that paired with the Dark Reflections Tarot, my god, badass pairing, love it. Each card is actually linked to a phase of grief. So I can't remember the 5 phases of grief now. You have anger, denial, sadness, I don't know all the other ones, but each card is linked to a particular type of grief, and it's also linked to a moon phase, and that is also explained in the guidebook. But for example, if we look at Fated to Suffer, great, just light little reading right here. So Fated to Suffer card, it's linked to the moon phase waxing gibbous. The grief stage is depression. The key phrase, feeling confined into a script, forced by other and never really fought, heading towards a destination of pain. Visual seed, so that explains to you what's going on in the artwork. In the confines of a foggy forest, a misshaped woman hands a green and red apple to a younger woman with red lips dressed as a servant. So that's what's going on in the card. The key sentence, if you know the future, you forsake your choices. Only with no fate, life is free to unfold into unknown shores. Finally going dark, so that will be like if you are pulling this card in a kind of shadow work way, this is what this card has to tell you. Once upon a time we believed in fairy tales. They were the voice of common sense, the educational tool which prepared us to duty, danger and morals, something we would never accept if they were told by a single voice. So the world arranged us to hear them with 1,000 voices, 1,000,000 voices. It's about what you can do and what you can't do. What are your worths? What can you aspire to? It's about what you like, what you want, what you hold dear. Creates a script which can become as strong as all the voices that believe that script combined. So much that you cannot see another path. Are you truly seeing Snow White in the card? Is this story truly the only one that this image can tell? What if the apple is not poisoned? What if the witch is not evil? Is that the same as what you look like in your life? Is it truly what you think it is? Are there not any other options? Is the opinions of others honestly better than ours, even if there are many and we are the only one? Are you fated to suffer? It is not that there is no suffering in the world. The point is that there is no fate. Helping you to decide what you accept is your story and what you will accept is not your story, and what is your agency in changing that. And honestly, each card really hits like that. And so this is an awesome deck. It's a deck, again, I know is very well loved, but one I haven't really gone back to give you my opinion on. I think I shared it when I got it in a haul, and then I've been using it a lot in my personal practice, and I think I might even have used it in a few picker cards, but I've not really gone back in a video and like express my thoughts on it. And I can tell you that this really is amazing. This, can be quite confronting, so I wouldn't say this is the best deck to use if you're feeling emotionally raw and vulnerable. But if you feel ready to go and discover what's hiding in your inner basement, this will really help you. So the Dark Mirror Oracle by Los Scarabeo. Awesome. Let's talk about another great oracle deck that I very rarely mention on my channel and that definitely deserves more love. This is the Connected and Free by Lauren Aletta, and this is the French edition of this particular deck. Originally, the Connected and Free Oracle is an indie deck. Now, about 4 years ago, I think now, this came at mass market in France, and I think maybe this is coming mass market in English. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure the Lumina Tarot by the same creators is coming mass market in English, so I've got high hopes that the Oracle deck is as well. The French edition anyway is mass market, a guidebook, and then inside the box is a smaller box which holds the card. 55 cards. See, we love that. I told you I'm a greedy bitch. The more cards the better. So 55 cards, love it. A very well-known deck in the community. A lot of people own it and love it for good reason, but it's one that I don't think I've shared. Again, I think it like at least 2 years I might not have talked about this one. I'm here to remedy that because this is very cool. And a deck I think is very multifaceted. It's definitely one of those that for me is like Swiss knife decks, those types of decks that I believe are kind of great for everything. Great for week ahead reading, great for clarifying tarot, great for big spreads, great for small spreads, great to read on its own, great to pair with other decks. Just super well balanced, super well varied. There's a lot of different concepts here, balanced keywords, light and shadow, versatile, which is the biggest strength of this deck for me. It's its versatility. The one that a lot of people, like when I've read for them with this, they've enjoyed, even if they're not necessarily into like cards and stuff. I don't think it's super confrontational, so it's one I would feel quite comfortable reading for others with that I know are not necessarily into cards, because it feels very like accessible and approachable. It doesn't feel too occult, it doesn't feel too woo-woo, you know what I mean? On every single card you'll have one key phrase or key sentence. I'm actually super tempted to write the English key phrases and key sentences on the top of the cards, because I've realized that I kind of prefer them than the French one. And I know like they've translated it the way they could. It's not bad translation at all, but I do think that sometimes the English word hit differently, and that's just because of my bilingual brain. Sometimes a French like keyword will hit better and sometimes an English keyword will hit better. I always like, every time I use this, I'm reminded that I want to do this, so I'm gonna leave this out so I can actually make it happen. But yeah, I think the artwork is gorgeous. The guidebook is nice. For each of the cards you get a little message. I don't use the guidebook that much, to be honest, because this is super intuitive. And it's one that I have found, especially for pairing with tarot, works really well. Deck like the Lightseers, for example, any kind of like modern decks like that, it really is an awesome pairing. So I wanted to mention it today because I've not shared it for ages. And yet it's one I've definitely used like behind the scenes, so I wanted to come back and share it again today. There's a lot of like chakras references here, which I think a lot of you will enjoy. In the Lumina Tarot by the same artist is coming English mass market. It already exists mass market in French. I don't have the tarot deck, I'm not particularly interested in it. The Oracle, on the other hand, is awesome. Okay, let's wrap it up with one last awesome tarot deck I don't talk about enough on my channel. That is the Botanica Tarot. This is by, God, I don't even know who this is by, because the name is not on the box. First off, production value. I mean, come on. This is gorgeous. The magpie in me is like delighted. And then it opens with a slidey boxy like this. And this is mass market, right? But in the mass market edition, you get so much stuff. So you get your cards, but then, because if this wasn't enough, you also get some postcards, which are so pretty. So these are all postcards, and they make a wall of like just all the artwork I'm collecting from all the decks, like when I get postcards from Kickstarters and stuff, and just have a wall of like tarot and oracle artwork. That would be awesome. So this is that. You also get something to make your necklace, very beautiful. Then you get one of those little patchy things to put on your jackets and stuff, and then you get stickers. Girl, when I opened this and this was mass market, I was like, I feel like this is some Kickstarter shit. I'm getting all this extra stuff. Like, I didn't expect all of that. I just paid for the cards. I don't know if this still comes with all of that, but I hope so, because it's cool. Like, we don't see often all of that stuff here. So I thought it was a nice addition. Anyway, we're here for the cards, right? So the guidebook is succinct. I wish it was a little bit bigger, because I wish I could learn even more. But it's one that is very important, because on each of the cards, this is Botanica Tarot, by the way, did I say that? By Kevin J. Stanton. And so as the name suggests, it's a plant deck, and so each of the cards is going to help you to tell you which is the plant. So for example, for the tower, it's wild apple. Then you have divinatory meaning, reversed, but this little bit is the most useful one, because it will tell you often what is depicted on the cards, in the sense of if there's a historical artifact or anything like that, or a little bit about the plant chosen. Wish we had more information, but what is in there is extremely useful to me, because it helps you to, well, first identify what's on the cards, and on all of the minors there's like not just the plant depicted, but also you have objects, specifically historical artifacts, and so the guidebook will tell you exactly what is depicted if there is an object there. And that has really helped me to then go in to do my own little Google research, to be like, oh, this was used by Celtic warriors, or oh, this is the crown of this King of England, or I don't know, just whatever, right? Like, it helps me to go and do my own research when there are objects like this, for example. If you're like, what is that? The guidebook will tell you. It's not much, but it's definitely enough so that you can do your own research. So I really enjoy this kind of mix between objects or artifacts and plants. The artwork, my god, this is so beautiful. Honestly, as far as plant decks go, this might be for me one of the most beautiful. It was painted on wood, and on a lot of the cards you can see still the wood peeking through the paint. It gives this really nice effect on the paint and the cards. And even though this is mass market, it feels indie. Like, the cardstock is matte, it's, look at those backings, it's gilded, edged. Like I said, we get a ton of stuff with it. This feels like indie for mass market price. So I really don't have anything negative to say, apart from I wish this had an even bigger guidebook, because there's so much that can, like, so much went into it, you can tell. And I'm very curious. I love to learn, so I would have loved if more information was given, but I have no problem like going and doing my own research. Here's one of my favorite cards. It's the passion fruit flower. In French we call it passiflore. We have some in the garden, so I'm always happy when this pops up. It has a very good variety of plants. It's not just plants from Eastern Europe, like you have some plants from all continents, I believe, which is also really nice. Allows us to potentially find more plants that we could see. And again, this artwork is just very, very beautiful. I will be honest, I don't really use this as a tarot, even though technically it is. For me, it's more of an oracle. I pull like 2 to 3 cards and read the guidebook, because I've tried to do bigger spreads with it. I'm not a herbalist, like I definitely don't know all the plants out there. I'm okay with plants from that are local to me, like Iranian island plants I'm very familiar with, but anything that's from a different continent or place, I struggle identifying. I need a guidebook, really. Originally, I think was an indie deck. I think there was a Kickstarter campaign, and then very quickly it was picked up mass market, and I'm very glad it did. Another one of my favorite cards, we have Lily of the Valley. I love Lily of the Valley for the Five of Cups. And I think here you can see a little bit of the wood peeking through. Really awesome artwork here. And so that is the Botanica Tarot. So my friends, this is it. These were all of the great tarot and oracle decks I don't talk about enough and that I thought today needed to be shared. I wanted to kind of go back on some decks I don't share a lot but that I use behind the scenes, just to like give you renewed thoughts, share with you how you worked with them, anything like that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and now it's my turn to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to share in the comments the mass market decks you've been enjoying lately, the decks you have been enjoying for years even, that you want to talk more about. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to share in the comments. I love to read you as always, and I try to respond to all of my comments. And until my next video, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all so much. I'm sending you so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!